Welcome to the Total Football Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Second Heart, and I'm joined by Andrew Conway.
Hello.
On today's Halloween-themed episode, there's spooky goings-on in Manchester and Catalonia as Tottenham and Real Madrid suffer important defeats. Lads, it's Spurs, is what Sir Alex Ferguson said nearly 20 years ago regarding the North London club, and it rears its ugly head again today as Spurs yet again fail to show up for the big game, being outdone by a long ball in an ugly early Saturday kickoff.
Yeah,
what did you think of the match, Andrew?
It was a pretty poor match in all accounts. The weather was awful. The players did not play their best football. There were some ugly tackles. There were some ugly dives. There was not much of the beautiful game there to behold for the purists, say.
It was a game that you just know Mourinho enjoyed, though.
Oh yeah, it was absolutely set up for Mourinho. He relishes matches that are gruesome and just a mess to kind of play in and be part of, and that's exactly the type of game he wanted to play from the get-go, which is fair enough. He knew if he played mano-a-mano against that Spurs team in the form they're in, United would be crushed.
Yeah, like injuries aside, I think that would be the case no matter what. Just especially with Mourinho in charge, anyway. Like, this was how Mourinho sets his team up every time.
Exactly. It's how he set himself up against Liverpool. It's how he set him up last week. It's how he set himself up against Benfica in the Champions League 10 days ago. There's no change in the man.
Yeah. And, there's something about it, I suppose it's done him well in the past, so why bother change?
Yeah, exactly. And, he is vindicated for it because they went and won.
Yeah.
There's no escaping it on his part.
Yeah, and when he shushed to the camera as the final whistle went, you just wonder, was he thinking about what's his strategy post-game the night before? Like, oh, I know. He has this epiphany of, oh, I know, I'll shush the crowd. Yeah,
absolutely. Mourinho has been known to do this, and it's been spoken in the past that Mourinho considers the post-match press conference a part of the game, as well as the pre-match press conferences. It gives him the impression that he's actually part of the play. He's out there playing with the players and all this. He's actually playing football for a man who never played football to a high level. It is his gameplay, really.
Yeah.
So he knew that was choreographed to the max. Whether he came up with it on the spot, he definitely was trying to do something, and it distracted from... he didn't really need to distract it because Man United did what they had to do. They won the match, but
it's not really the kind of antic a manager should do when they lose or they maybe have a poor draw.
Yeah, or if they really turn up for their critics, which they didn't either, I think.
Yeah.
United got lucky. They played well. They did their job. A lot of teams wouldn't.
They did shut down Tottenham.
Exactly. A lot of teams wouldn't be able to do that, and they did what Real Madrid could not do at home, which was beat Spurs.
Yeah.
A Harry Kane-less Spurs, though, it must be said.
Yeah, and that brings us into the news, I suppose, because the news going into that match was that Harry Kane will be out of that match.
And it was a loss for them. They played Son up front in a kind of
you wonder why
attacking role.
You have to wonder why they didn't play Llorente.
Because Son offers a lot more mobility than Llorente. I think if Llorente sat there, it would be similar to what happened last season when Costa played against Chelsea, or against Manchester United for Chelsea.
Yeah,
when he was the big centre forward and he was isolated.
In that Chelsea match, there was no Chris Smalling on the pitch.
True, but Chris Smalling isn't that bad, people have a low opinion of him. He's not.
I just don't... maybe the back three does kind of suit him because it hides the mistakes he can make. Yeah, and
it brings out the best of his game because it allows him to pass and give him a few extra seconds on the ball whenever you play.
Yeah, but you wonder, would Llorente have maybe brought something different to the side?
I don't know. The idea behind Son was to really just bring in the rest of the Tottenham team, where Harry Kane at the moment is in such phenomenal form that he's dragging the Spurs midfield and defenders and everybody around him to create chances. And
Eriksen has kind of been playing very well so far this season, but he was pretty anonymous for most of that match.
Because Kane wasn't there to finish off the chances. It's a different... When you lose a player as important as Harry Kane, it changes the dynamic of the team, and you can't really adjust on the fly, especially when you have to go to Old Trafford to play a Jose Mourinho team. it's very difficult to adjust with that. So Son, the idea was sound from Pochettino, was to bring in the rest of the team so they weren't over reliant on the centre forward presence. But it did not really work because they weren't used to playing that way.
Yeah, but I wonder, it was Dele Alli didn't have a good game at all, and he's not been in form. I think he might need a rest or something at this point.
He needs a shock, I'd say, is probably what he needs at the moment, because he's not, as you say, he's not performing well this season. He's not hitting the heights of last season, all those spectacular goals he scored and the interplay he had with Harry Kane. It
does seem like he does start slow to campaigns, but we're 10 games into the season now.
Yeah, and there is a thing with Spurs starting slow, as they had in August when Harry Kane hadn't scored and Spurs were struggling to win home games, let alone the big games against Chelsea.
But as a team, Tottenham, despite losing this match, do seem to be in the thick of it at the moment. They are still third in the league. Yeah, but Ali's not keeping up.
No, but at the same time, who do they have in that side that's going to come in? Dembele is in his precarious health at the moment with his foot.
He came off the bench, but he wouldn't have been able to play 90 minutes.
Yeah, so, and with Son having to play up front, and with Lamela long-term absentee.
He's back in training now as well, I think.
Oh, well, that might give a bit of something different for Spurs to think about, because at the moment
Sissoko was on the bench.
He was injured in the match last week, wasn't he? He had to come off.
Oh, yeah, okay. I think I do remember that now.
Yeah, he was. He has played well this season when he's been called upon it, but they're not the same player. Ali is a kind of Paul Pogba type, if you will, a box-to-box player, a Steven Gerrard-esque player that can kind of explode on without having a defined role in the team, while even Sissoko, for all his detractors, does play a defined role either at the base of midfield, or he's played a lot for Spurs on the right side of midfield this season.
Yeah.
So, they're different players, but I think a more creative Lamela player could come into that role and give Ali at least a break, or if not, give him a kind of shock to realise that he's not an automatic selection for Spurs if he plays as badly he has been. That dive, did you see the dive he had?
Yeah, I saw the dive.
It's not the end of the world. A dive is a dive, and players try to do whatever they can.
But he is starting to get a reputation for that now, and it was funny seeing him interact with Ashley Young. Was it around that time? Was it I can't quite remember. Was it before or after that they kind of got into their first big argument?
Yeah, but they're not seeing eye to eye.
Yeah, because Ashley Young did have a notorious reputation for diving when he was still one of the main starters at United. Yeah, I'd say he still would be diving if he was further up the field. But and if he still had a prominent position further up the pitch, he definitely would be, I'd say.
Yeah, but again, Man United managed to beat out with Ashley Young in the side.
Yeah, and he did play quite well at left back. I think he's been or left wing back. I think he's been a bit poor defensively up to now in the season. When he was the wing back role suited him a lot better.
He wasn't challenged as much as you want him to be. The Spurs fullbacks did not do their normal thing of pushing forward, pushing on.
No, but I've still seen him make mistakes in matches where he wasn't really threatened too much at left back. So I do think the wing back role is more suited to him.
And with the Champions League coming up, it could be another start for him there as well at wing back.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how Mourinho sets his team up there after playing three at the back against Tottenham. But Man United seem like they're the only team keeping up pace with Man City, who just keep on winning.
They did concede 2 this time, which is 2. Yeah. I think that's the same amount they've conceded all season in the league, is it?
No, they conceded 4, I think, up to now.
Oh, okay. So almost they 50%. They've added another 50% onto their goals allowed level, so they're only plus 29 now, or
yeah, plus 29, but it's still the best start in Premier League history.
Yeah, it's an amazing record. They
28 from 30 goals, 38 from 30 points rather.
Yeah, it's pretty. I know last season they started very strongly as well, but
yeah, I think they got 27 points from 30 this time last season.
Yeah, but now they're kind of on this run, and they have a challenge coming up next week, which I know we'll speak about later on the show. But West Brom, who have not been good this season at all, actually put up a good fight, and Tony Pulis does have a decent record against these bigger sides. He does managed to set up right against them, especially good tiki-taka passing teams. He notoriously usually beats Arsenal. He puts it up against Man City, generally speaking, and he puts it up against Liverpool. So
it's against Man City, though, that he just generally, his record isn't as good.
Yeah, but that's something psychological behind Tony Pulis, do you think?
Yeah.
Does he not like going to Manchester? Or
like the
having
club
to
in
visit?
general, I think they haven't beaten Man City in their last 16 meetings now.
That's just crazy.
Yeah, and it's only one draw as well, I think.
Yeah, they're just falling at that hurdle, similar to, Stoke have similar records at different places as well.
Yeah.
But they did well. Like poor West Brom, they're basically stuck down to the mire at the moment. They can't get out of it.
Yeah, they're not having a good start to the season at all. Like, they won the first one, if not two matches, but since then they've not done anything of note, really.
What was the record we said? Was it 17 of the last 20 matches or 18 of the last 20 matches they've lost?
It's up to 19 matches now. They've won 2, I think.
Won 2 out of 19, isn't?
Yeah.
That is more than relegation for him. If Tony Pulis didn't have the reputation he has, he'd definitely be gone.
Yeah, I'd say he's kind of gone under the radar at the moment, but we'll have to keep an eye out on him now.
Yeah, I'd say there will not. Well, West Brom have been loyal to managers. They usually let them have a go. They're not quick to sack. Normally, they have done it before, but they keep faith with managers probably for maybe too long sometimes. And we'll see.
Yeah, because like West Ham kind of have that problem at the moment as well.
Yeah, West Ham. How many matches have they not won this season? They are in.
They won in midweek though.
Against, that's probably kept his job. I remember last week we discussed Bilic was given 2 matches to salvage his job, and one was against Spurs in the Carling Cup, or Caribou Cup as it's called now, and he managed to win somehow in that match 3-2. And despite Mitchell Pochettino saying that Spurs wanted to win real trophies, not the Caribou Cup, a bit disheartening to the organisers of that competition and other teams that get involved in it. Jose Mourinho loves it. Like,
he even kind of said that about the FA Cup as well. He doesn't seem to really regard that to
high standards.
High standards at all.
That could be a shot at Arsenal, who won. The local rivals up there have won a few of the FA Cups recently, and maybe
I think Tottenham fans would maybe prefer 3 FA Cups in 4 years over maybe
the second place finish last season.
Yeah, it is better for Tottenham fans than finishing kind of in Europa League places for the last decade or so. But I'd say they'd still want some silverware on top of how well they've played.
It's usually better. Like similarly, if they'd won the League Cup, Manchester United finished 6th last season, but they won 2 trophies.
Yeah,
and
they got the same end result as Tottenham did at the end of the season.
Champions League qualification. And I'd say the Man United fans, in 10 years' time, they won't remember that they finished 6th, but they will have that UEFA Cup on the trophy cabinet.
Yeah, and like even just winning the League Cup final gives you that sense of winning. It gives you a mentality of winning.
Yeah, well,
that you need for further competitions.
So do you think West Ham are going to go and win the Caribou Cup?
Oh, certainly not. They drew, was it Arsenal in the next round?
Yeah, another London side, another London derby.
Yeah, they could maybe do Arsenal just because Arsenal are a bit apathetic.
They put out the kids most definitely in the cup.
Yeah.
Poor Bilic though. He's somehow, did you see that wonderful photograph?
That was a fantastic photo.
If you haven't seen it, it's there's a last minute equaliser in that match between Crystal Palace and West Ham. And Roy Hodgson at Crystal Palace in absolute elation as the goal goes in, and at the same time Bilic is in mid-fall to his knees, just completely distraught with the world,
hands on his head.
Yeah, and everyone else was just the same. It was like a Renaissance painting almost.
Yeah, there's just a nice contrast between like joy and sadness.
Yeah, the anguish in his face is something you won't forget soon. But is the fact that he hasn't been sacked, does that just show great patience from the owners at West Ham, or is it just complete ineptitude?
It seems like it's just complete and utter ineptitude at the moment, like
just incompetence on their part that they can't make a decision to get rid of the manager, even though the manager doesn't seem to even want to be there anymore. He's like sometimes he seems really unhappy with just being there and not picking the team and being stuck with the players he's stuck with. Like maybe he wants to leave. I know it was similar when he was at Croatia near the end. He always seemed to want to leave the country, but
Yeah.
He didn't get his own way, and this time it seems to be dragging on as well.
Yeah, and like, it just seems so bizarre. Like, it just seems like there's no order to the club at all.
No,
at the moment.
Like Karen Brady calls the shots there. She's chairwoman, but the two owners seem to like hold the reins of the hiring and firing of the manager, and there's nowhere near coming to a decision on it. They, Leicester, when they got rid of Craig Shakespeare, at least they had some semblance of a plan. They had multiple interviews with different prospective managers.
It was so ruthless as well, the way in which they sacked him. Like, it's just a complete opposite of West Ham.
Exactly, and Southampton have done it in the past as well. They did it with Puel, who's the new Leicester manager, over the summer, and he finished 8th, and they deemed it not good enough, and they got rid of him immediately.
Yeah, they even got to a cup final, like their first in however many years.
Yeah.
Like, it seemed like a successful season on paper.
But it wasn't up to their standards, so that's a well-run institution.
Yeah.
And then West Ham is just the opposite for such a big London club in a massive new stadium and with resources to back it up, and they're just not making the correct strategic decisions.
Yeah, and it's been like that ever since they came into the club as well, it seems.
Yeah, Gold and Sullivan, there's no nice way to say where they got their money from. It's from illicit vices, I would say. That would probably be the nicest way to put where they got their money from. But they're in charge of West Ham, and the old London club isn't doing that well at the moment.
Yeah, but speaking of Claude Puel, he is now at Leicester, and they played against managerless Everton on Sunday. 2-0 victory.
Poor David Unsworth. He counts as a person. He was the caretaker manager for Everton.
Just going from bad to worse for Everton at the moment now.
Yeah, Leicester looked amazing. Like, I don't know, is that a case that, Puel has brought in organisation and vigour to the side, or whether it's just Everton are that awful. The first goal, I want to say, the Jamie Vardy goal, was a fantastic counter-attack which came from...
Yeah, Demarai Gray did very well.
Fantastic. He had tried I forget what Everton player it was, but he absolutely tried to take him out of it and missed the body check.
Rooney?
Was it Rooney who tried to body check him and then kind of he bounced off Rooney or whatever Everton player it was, continued up the field, timed his pass to the right perfectly, and then that was followed into Vardy, who just tapped in. It was like 3 touches between probably the halfway line and the back of the net. It was excellent.
Yeah, and like it's always curious because every time I've seen Demarai Gray, he's looked promising, but he's not gotten a lot of chances.
No, and maybe Puel is the person to give it to him. Like he tried to bring a bit of youth back into the side at Southampton after it was neglected a bit under Ronald Koeman, but maybe he's trying to bring back the young players that kind of saw the light at the end of the Claudio Ranieri reign and have been kind of left out since then. And it's a kind of different type of team. Like Puel has a strange football history. He brought up smaller sides and did well with them, and then he eventually went on to a bigger team. He was manager at Lyon as they were going through a transition phase. Did well enough with them, but was sacked for pragmatic football.
Didn't he bring them to a Champions League semi-final?
Exactly. He did okay with them. It was through the transition after they'd won the 7 league titles, he took over. And they kind of were on the way down, but on the way down they managed to snag a Champions League semi-final place, which was fantastic for them. And then he got sacked because they were playing bad football, similar to what happened at Southampton last season. So he went to Nice after that, and he played a wonderful attacking football, bringing through all these young players and rejects cast-offs like Ben Arfa.
Revived Ben Arfa's career,
Exactly, and they did fantastically well, qualified for Europe, and then he got another job at Southampton, a bigger side, so-called bigger budget anyway. And he got sacked for the same reason. So maybe Leicester are in store for some attacking football as a bounce back.
Yeah, just every second club he switches style.
Yeah, it might be a way of doing it.
But away from the Premier League and La Liga, Real Madrid lost to promoted side Girona. They were just dreadful, it seems.
Yeah, Girona were excellent. It's not to put anything against Girona, because they were well worth their victory. They played fantastic football, but that's the first time Real Madrid, in 10 years, that they've lost to a promoted side.
9 or 10 years.
10 seasons anyway. And they were just the first time they've ever played Girona in a competitive match, if you can believe that. And now a team has a 100% victory record against Real Madrid, which is, again, I think next to nobody has that record against them.
I think Aberdeen are the only other team to have that record, bizarrely enough.
That's some lofty company to be in for Girona.
Yeah.
But yeah, Real were very, very abject. Like, there was a full side out. Everyone was playing. Ronaldo, Benzema, Isco, everyone was on the team. Now, Ramos should have been sent off for punching someone in the face.
Generally, yeah, that seems to always be the case at Ramos.
Yeah, well, the player dived a bit, but it was funny to see it happen to Ramos for a change as opposed to him diving. But Real took the lead in that match as well, and they just
early in the game as well.
Yeah, and they were comfortable. Like, they were under pressure, but they seemed to be, the kind of. So we were speaking to Jose Mourinho earlier, the taking the goal ahead and then sitting back and letting the pressure come on, and hoping for a counter-attacking goal. But there was loads of chances to Girona, and they played like it's very. If just to speak about the way they played for a second, because it'll be a story for other teams who want to, or a blueprint for other teams who want to play Real Madrid. That Girona played similar to Borussia Dortmund under Klopp years ago now, and Pochettino's Spurs at their best. They played tight triangles in the last third of the pitch when, say, Real Madrid are playing short out of from goal kicks, and immediately two players would be on each Real Madrid centre back. So as it happened, more and more of the game, Toni Kroos and whoever's playing centre midfield had to drop into defence to take the ball and help the defenders actually play it out. But the Girona players adjusted to that, had two of their three attackers staying on the centre backs and dropped another one into midfield. So there's one more Girona player midfield than the Real Madrid had in midfield, and they'd invariably win the ball back. Now Zidane tried to break out from that and tried to break free from that press by telling his players to play short, incisive passes up and down and long balls over the top. And it did kind of work, but the amount of pressure that was put on players like Benzema and Ronaldo whilst the ball got further up the field meant that unless they were pulling something magical out of their hat, they couldn't get away from the Girona press, and eventually the pressure just paid off for them as they just overwhelmed the Real Madrid defence and scored those two pretty good goals. One of them was a back heel from like 3 yards out, which took a bit of confidence to do.
But you wonder, is this just Zidane being tactically naive? Like, he's not... We praised his man managing ability while at Real Madrid, because man managing is probably the more important aspect of being the Real Madrid manager.
True.
But tactics is still a highly important aspect of any job as a manager, any job that a manager will have.
True, and you know, some say he couldn't win the Champions League without being a tactically well-minded manager, but then managers such as Roberto Di Matteo won the Champions League.
Yeah.
So it's a strange tournament in that way. But Zidane has won back-to-back ones. He's won league titles. But the thing with Zidane as well, as you say, you probably can't escape the aura he has. He is one of the best players of the last 30 years. He won the World Cup, he won the European Championship, he won the Champions League, he won everything he could possibly win, and is doing the same as a manager at such an early stage. He has absolute respect. Apparently he can still do it in the training ground as well, so if necessary he can show players how to do things. You know, so maybe there is always that like awe of Zidane that they do what he tells them to do, and maybe that means that there is a gap that isn't being filled by tactics, and if a well-drilled team like Girona's come up against them, that Zidane does not have a way to use his, power of will to overwhelm the opposition. Like, it could be too early to see because we've only had a few seasons of him, and I know he's won 2 Champions Leagues and a league title in that time. But maybe we do need more, challenges against him to see how he does when he's come up against good managers.
Yeah, and another thing is, like, with that Champions League, the second Champions League win, is there was reliance on Ronaldo to score the goals, and now he's scoring 1 every 40 shots. Like, it's the worst conversion rate in Europe at the moment, or among the elite leagues anyway. Like,
that is, for 1 goal per 40 shots is mind-boggling. Like, how
for Ronaldo especially, like.
But for any player to have 40 shots in this, we've had 9 games in La Liga so far this season?
9 or 10, yeah.
And he was suspended for a few of them, and he's already having one. He scored more than 1 goal, so he's had 80 shots.
Yeah,
at least. Like, that's mad. That's absolutely mad. Now, I noticed I was a bit worried by it because, speaking of Ronaldo, Girona's manager, it's a Catalan club. They're in Barcelona. Their local rival is Barcelona. So it could have been a jibe against the bigger club in Barcelona. that he said that Messi is more important for Barcelona than Ronaldo is for Real Madrid, because Barcelona only have Messi, while Real Madrid have Benzema, Bale, Isco, Casemiro, Cruz, Modric. You know, they have all of these players throughout the whole team, while Barcelona are over-reliant on Messi. But watching that match, there was a few moments when Real Madrid were playing well. They were in the second half, say, they were doing the tactics that probably Zidane told them to do. They're playing short passes and moving the ball quickly forward so that Girona couldn't get their press on top of them. But a couple of times Benzema was bearing in on goal, and his first instinct wasn't to shoot, wasn't to, you know, pass it out wide to the fullbacks running on. It was to find Ronaldo as soon as possible. And maybe not to Ronaldo's fault in these cases, he got the ball while he was still in mid-flight, running well outside the box. He could do no one's ahead of him, and everyone's waiting for him to do something, and he couldn't do it. Like, he is 32 now, is he? And he, you know, he's not going to always be able to have that bit of spark of power and ingenuity at these times.
Yeah, like his career is winding down.
It is. Well, to an extent it is, yeah.
Yeah.
This player was awarded the UEFA Best or FIFA's Best award earlier this week.
Yeah.
So he's not done.
That award, I think there's a greater discussion maybe to be had about that award, though, in fairness.
Perhaps we can visit it when the Ballon d'Or is released later on in the year to contrast the two awards. But yeah, like, Ronaldo is over relied upon by his teammates at Real Madrid and by Zidane. You're probably right, and maybe the weeks when he was out of the team might have, you know, shine a bit of light to Zidane that maybe there's different ways he can play to utilise more of his, you know, galacticals in the squad. But at the moment, it does seem to everything funnels through Ronaldo, and if he's not scoring, like if he only takes 1 goal from 40 shots, Real Madrid aren't going to win the league this year.
Yeah, and like they're 8 points adrift now as Barcelona won away to Athletic Bilbao, and Real Madrid have never overturned an 8-point deficit in La Liga.
Yeah, and again, as we discussed before, they're not playing each other until December, so
yeah, that could get even bigger.
It could get even bigger, and that Clásico could be all important. It could be a league. Imagine, for instance, if it came down that the 8 points is still intact, the 8-point gap is still intact come December 20th or whatever day of the week the Clásico is on. And Real Madrid lose that, and they're 11 points behind.
Yeah, you would feel at that point
left.
that it's just, that's the league done then at that point, you would imagine.
And this Barcelona side, which is over-reliant on Messi, is making him create everything. Isn't that well? Hasn't replaced Neymar, has centre forward Luis Suarez, who's
in the
injured.
summer, the story was that they were in complete and utter turmoil. Real Madrid were going to walk the league, and it just seems like everything off the pitch has reversed itself on the pitch.
Yeah, it's like Real Madrid are a settled squad. You know, they've added good players to the squad. Their defenders are high quality. They have backups now in right back and left back, which they didn't have.
But are they
past.
missing Alvaro Morata?
That's someone to just bring on and score an important goal. Maybe they don't have a player like him now. Benzema does have good stats, but if he plays the way he played against Girona, always looking for Ronaldo, you know, he doesn't have that killer.
Well, according
to
Gary Lineker, he's overrated.
He could be, like, as a foil for other players, he seems to be excellent, but I don't believe a player in that Real Madrid side who's worth their salt. Like, if you put Gary Lineker up front with Ronaldo, I'd say Ronaldo would have 25% less goals a season because Gary Lineker would be taking them off him.
Yeah, like I can't imagine a player would be able to play that long alongside Ronaldo without there being some sort of issue or reason for him not to play.
Yeah, like there must be some kind of confidence thing or some kind of, like, this is how he thinks he must play now.
Yeah. But in Italy, Napoli have continued their incredible run, but Juventus have crushed Milan on Saturday in the San Siro, and Milan did not look up to much.
No, Bonucci was out suspended, of course, so they were lacking their new captain, and you know he was denied that return of his former teammates to the San Siro. It was very, like, Milan didn't look like the Milan side of last season that wasn't up to much. That hadn't spent €230 million in the transfer window. They looked like the old Milan that's going to finish 7th place. I fear for Montella, the manager.
You wonder how much longer he's going to be at the club.
In fairness to him, he has just played consecutive bad, tough matches in 2 or 3 weeks. He had to play Inter and he had to play Juventus, and neither of those matches is very easy. So you can, afford him the losses in this case, because they didn't build the squad is not to the same level as Juventus or an Inter at this point. They're still building, but yeah, as you said, it's not looking good for Montella at the moment. Milan usually keeps their managers for until things look terribly bad. They usually persist.
Yeah, but you wonder with
season.
Carlo Ancelotti there, maybe could they persuade him to maybe come in and see can he fix what's going wrong there, or maybe even see what's going wrong with Antonio Conte and try to see can they persuade him to come over to Milan.
Yeah, I would say Conte is a more realistic ambition than Carlo, because Carlo was there for nearly a decade. He did everything he could do at Milan. He won everything he could win at Milan.
Yeah.
He was kind of finished off was not very well cared for at the end because his side is being dismantled. All his players
but it
are being
is
sold
new
on.
management there as well. We have to remember.
True, Berlusconi's not there anymore. He doesn't have a controlling stake in the club. So, things are a bit different now. But maybe I get the impression that Ancelotti's done with Italy for the moment. I think he wants more likely to come back to England or to take on, maybe even an international role, because, he's done his hard time at these different clubs. He's won Champions Leagues, he's won leagues.
Yeah.
He's never been treated well at any of the clubs he's been at, really. He's always kind of been pushed out the door at the end. And that's not, with the exception of Paris Saint-Germain, where he left to go to Real Madrid. So maybe there's a return on for there. But everywhere else he's been, Bayern, at Real, at Chelsea, at Milan, he's just been treated so poorly. I think Carlo, and I think the only logical thing for him to do is look for a club that's actually going to love him, adore him. And maybe, that is another club in England. Maybe that is an international side, or maybe that is going back to Paris.
Yeah, I could see him going to international football, but he has said he's going to take a break. And I could see him sticking to that as well.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see him breaking mid-season to take over a Milan side that will, if the manager just gets sacked, probably the best they could hope for is a 5th or 6th place finish.
Yeah, but they need to finish top 4 as well. And you can wonder as well, they are in the Europa League. They could maybe do what Man United did last season and try put all their eggs in that basket.
They might have to come to that in the long term, because I don't see them. I don't see them breaking.
They're going to need Champions League football with the amount of money they've been spending.
Yeah, and the Chinese investors will not be happy with their return on investment if the Champions League is not made this season. So I don't see Montella staying long term if they don't make the Champions League. That's for sure.
Yeah. That will do us for the end of part 1. Join us for part 2 for more on Manchester United in our topic of the show. Welcome back to the Total Football Podcast. We're going to talk about Manchester United now. The defensive ideology in football. Mauricio Pochettino put it very well at the weekend. To play in a match like that with opponents set up for a stalemate, a winner is decided only one way. A bit of creative genius from a great player or a mistake. We made the mistake, they took advantage, we were unlucky, they were lucky. Following on from the dour performances, how long can Mourinho's style persist at a club like Manchester United?
The short answer, I think, for that is not very long. Because I think already you saw it last season and you saw it again this season. You saw it under Louis van Gaal, who kind of had a similar approach to the game at the time. It was more
style. It was like they were opposite. They were kind of the same side of the coin, but they were different.
Yeah, they win more matches.
Van Gaal would make sure that they had as much possession as possible, whereas Mourinho made sure they didn't.
Yeah, he doesn't want the ball. Mourinho has a philosophy about football where he believes that the team that has the ball less can make less mistakes, so he doesn't want the ball. He wants the other team to have the ball so they make more mistakes and he can score.
And they fear it. They fear possession.
Exactly, because he's drilled it into them. If you have someone shouting at you for holding onto the ball too long, you get rid of the ball. Mourinho, from everything people have told about Mourinho in the past, he takes absolute control of his defensive shape, his defensive unit, his midfield, his defenders, his goalkeeper. They know exactly where they should be at all times and what they should be doing and who they should be passing the ball to or getting the ball away to and who they should be marking, etc. Apparently his attacking players, a few, whatever creative outlets he decides on the day, are kind of left to their own devices and they do what they want and it's up to them to create whatever they want or to pounce on mistakes as it may be. So he takes a very strict view of football where you do what you're told, you play your part, and if everything goes to plan, the other team won't do everything right and you will win. At smaller clubs, that is exactly what has to be done. If you were a Sam Allardyce at Crystal Palace or West Ham, you do not have the budget, you do not have the players of the bigger teams. You don't have any of the same assets that they have. You can't go out and play them man for man, player for player, and hope to get a result because you simply won't. So you set them up to not lose. You set them up for a stalemate. And you hope that they can't cope with that they can't break you down, and they make a mistake and you might get a goal. That is Mourinho's entire ideology in football. It's what's won him 2 Champions Leagues, multiple league titles. It's what puts him at the, puts him up against the fans of every single club he plays for because he manages big clubs that have lofty ambitions, that want to play good football, that mostly have traditions of good football. And eventually that sours the relationship and they can't go on. And I think it's inevitable that Manchester United fans and the Bobby Charlton and other people in the club who know about football will eventually part ways with him and get rid of him from the club, because winning against Spurs buys him time, lets him do the shush at the camera, lets him be the big man for the weekend. But then you think back 2 weeks ago and they played Liverpool, and that Liverpool side has turned out to be completely shot in defence, that has no confidence. And he goes out and he doesn't even try to win the match. He does the same against Benfica when they're playing the rookie goalkeeper at home, and it comes out as well. It works that the keeper makes a mistake and they win, and it kind of papers over the cracks that Manchester United are playing a pragmatic, or it's not even pragmatic, they're playing an ideologue's view of football. They're playing defence 100%, attack 0%.
Yeah. And
let's go from there. It's not, there's a lot of talk about the philosophies of football clubs. Football clubs don't have philosophies, but there is, a way that Manchester United fans expect their team to play. They expect to play passing football. They expect to have possession of the ball. They expect to create chances. None of that happens under Jose Mourinho. Like at the beginning of the season, in our first few shows of the season, we talked about how Man United were devastating in attack. Marcus Rashford and Lukaku would simply run through defenders who didn't know how to deal with them, which is kind of a ridiculous way to score, but it doesn't show any creativity. It just shows that they were running at other players and they scored goals.
But even at Chelsea, that was kind of how Hazard would be. Like that's how he scored for Chelsea, and he was the most pivotal player. It was the same for Diego Costa. He just run at players.
Yeah, he run at players, force mistakes. He picks players who were fantastic at causing trouble. That is why Marouane Fellaini, and Mourinho said it himself, he says he doesn't know how to play without Fellaini, because he has become a linchpin in that team. No one really knows how to cope with Marouane Fellaini. He is a big, lumbering, slow...
He's an enigma.
Yeah, he is. He's skillful beyond comprehension because he does not look like a skillful player. He does not hold himself like a skillful player. He doesn't run like a skillful player. And often he loses the ball like a complete amateur. But sometimes he's able to control the ball with his chest the way some players control the ball with their feet. And that's amazing. And defenders don't know how to deal with it. Similar with Paul Pogba at the moment. Paul Pogba is a force of nature when he's in form. And he can just charge through teams and charge through players. Marcus Rashford's pace is the same. He's using weird physical quirks of his players rather than any kind of plan to defeat teams.
It is kind of a pity that they did play this Tottenham match without their key players, and the same can be said for Tottenham as well. Just to see, like, he would set up the team the same way, but with those players in the team. Yeah,
and maybe they would, actually attempt to score a goal rather than have the goalkeeper punt a long ball in the 85th minute or whatever it was.
Like they did have a few chances against Tottenham. Like Lukaku did hit the post.
Yeah,
but like most of their chances did come from Tottenham mistakes. I remember in the first half, Lloris had a goal kick that went straight to Lukaku, I think it was, And like that's the exact kind of mistake that Mourinho is just waiting for his team to pounce on.
But like, as opposed to say pragmatic football, like I think back, and this is the Irish in me coming out, but Jack Charlton for Ireland, they used to play terrible long ball football, but there was a plan behind it. They give the ball back to Packy Bonner, who could hit the ball further than anyone on the field, who would then aim for a player the other side of the field, John Aldridge and Tony Cascarino, pound it out to him, and then that player would knock it down to the midfield, creative players, the Ray Houghtons, the Andy Townsend, who could actually do something. Man United, conversely, don't seem to have even a plan to do with the long ball football. They either pounce on these mistakes, like you said about Lukaku, or they just play the ball long and hope that A, the defenders make a mistake and they're unable to clear, or B, it somehow flukily gets to one of our players who can then run at it and maybe score of their own accord, rather than actually have any type of creative insight into the game where, okay, we're going to give the ball to Juan Mata, and Juan Mata is going to pass to this player, he's going to pass to that player, he's going to build up an attack, who's going to like allow runners, who's going to pass and move around. You know, the various different things that are intrinsic to football, Manchester United don't attempt to do, which is why they don't create traditional chances. They're creating chances that are completely of the opposition's making, and that's Mourinho football. It's great for Mourinho. He's won trophies with it. It's not. Sometimes it's wonderful to watch. Sometimes you really get a buzz out of it. That, you know, this is just fun football. It's unpredictable. But at other times it's just absolutely dire, and that's what it was, I think, despite the victory for many Manchester United fans at the weekend.
Yeah, and it was especially like that against Liverpool. Like, and the one thing those two games had in common was they were both incredibly scrappy.
Yeah.
There was something about the way Manchester United pressed Tottenham that was unlike a normal press that we've seen from the top teams in the Premier League.
Well, they kind of they hold off and then they crowd where the opposition are going to play. They don't. Yeah, they
run around the player that has the ball and kind of wait for the player to make the mistake. Their pressing kind of sums up Mourinho's philosophy in a way. Because it's not necessarily that the tackling is good, it's just get a foot on the ball, make sure the mistake is made, and then try to get to the second ball. Like Pep spoke about it last season after the defeat to Leicester City. He was asked about how come they played so poorly. I think it was a 4-2 defeat. And he said, the second ball is, you know, something in England. It's kind of unique to England and the importance of them. And we're seeing that when Mourinho plays against one of the bigger sides. Like, I thought that Man United just kept going for the second ball, and it was more evident in the first half than in the second half, I thought. Just how often United did get to the second ball.
Yeah, they tire over time, you see. That's the thing. That's why it kind of slowed as the game went on. They can't play at that frenetic speed of defending the whole match. And that is what's going to be their downfall, probably in Europe, unless Mourinho can come up with some way to... Unless he gets a good draw, or they can come up with some way to combat European sides who will be used to playing against pressurised teams. You know, if they draw a German team or something like that, I don't see them doing very well.
Yeah, but even then, like back when Ferguson was still manager, up until in the 90s anyway, in the early 2000s, like it was better for him to kind of... He should have played a more pragmatic side, like Mourinho does do, but instead he tried to play how he played in England.
Yeah, that
was kind of his downfall for certain years in the end.
Yeah, you're right, and that is why Ferguson evolved as years went on the way he played in Europe. So maybe, I don't know.
That's what I think, that the Champions League might end up suiting Mourinho more than the next 28 games in the Premier League. Yeah,
I take your point about Europe, but I feel in a similar way that football's kind of moved on since Ferguson left the club, left the game. That I know Ferguson point, you could play cavalier football, but if you go back,
and even then, like Ferguson did change for the last 5 or 10 years of his career there. Like they played very attacking football in Europe for his final few years.
Exactly, the Real Madrid match is the case in point where they finally went out in his final season. But if you go back to the way any English club played, even in the early 2000s, 2003, 2004, it's miles apart from the way they play now. Everyone, like, I'm not saying it's Spanish football or Italian football where there's 100 passes before a shot, but there is a lot more going on in terms of technical play now than there was 15 years ago in the league. And I think, I don't think you can say that the way Mourinho plays in Europe is that different from the way that other European teams play at the moment. I think the game has moved on from when Mourinho and that old Ferguson way of playing pragmatic football can actually result in long-term success in Champions League. I know Mourinho's had it, don't get me wrong, and he won the Europa League last season, but I think when he comes against top-class opposition, if he comes up against Real Madrid, if he comes up against a Man City in the Champions League, if he comes up against a Bayern Munich, I don't see him being able to outwit the opposition.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And we did kind of see kind of a teaser to that in the Super Cup final against Real Madrid.
Where a Real Madrid team that didn't even seem to be at the races in that match. They were still in summer holidays, most of them. And they were just...
Yeah, for the first hour of that match anyway, yeah. They tore United apart.
They did, absolutely. And Mourinho had no response for it, other than hopefully not lose.
Bring on Fellaini, I think, was the response, really.
Yeah. And
it did change the match in the end, but again, like, that's not a match you can really read too much into.
True, but it changed the match exactly in the way we discussed it earlier, that bring on Fellaini, no one knows how to deal with him. It's the Peter Crouch strategy. You bring on Peter Crouch because he's gigantic, he's lanky, no one knows how to play against him. And we'll see what happens. He might pull a goal. The defenders don't know how to defend against him. They might foul him by accident. And it's kind of that way of Fellaini. He's big, he's lumbering, he runs through midfield like a tractor. It's strange, it's crazy, but it seems to work for him. And it works for Manchester United at times. And that seems to be the way he's kind of funneling his attacking play, is give it to these players who you don't know what they're going to do, and let's hope that they do something that's right.
Yeah, and like, of course, we have to remember as well that this is Manchester United. Like, look at the amount of money they're spending.
True.
Like, to spend 100 million or 150 million for both of the summers that Mourinho's been at the club, and to have that kind of performance against a team that they've completely outspent.
And their wage budget is, I think,
their wage
budget
is massive.
Yeah.
Especially in comparison to Tottenham. Like, and Tottenham are playing such better football at the moment.
And it's like, you watch this and it's a shock almost. Like we were talking about spookiness or shocking performances at the beginning of the show. And it is almost a shocking performance. I know we kind of telegraphed it beforehand that Man United could pull this one out. But because it's Mourinho, it suits Mourinho, blah, blah, blah. But it still was. Spurs were the favourites going into this match, even without their talismanic striker, Harry Kane. They still were the favourites. They're going to play Real Madrid during the week, and they still were the favourites. Like, where does that say Manchester United are? Like, Spurs are a team that were behind Man United in the league, and they still were the favourites.
Yeah, like, it is... Like, there's obviously the psychological thing with Tottenham in regards to Manchester United, but like you just like the thing I always question whenever I see Man United play football like this is, like, first of all, Mourinho always has the issue of it all going wrong in the end, and then there's also just like he was giving out to the fans at the weekend.
Yeah,
like, they won. Like, why is he bothering? He never lasts more than 3 seasons, and Ed Woodward is the man in charge of hiring and firing managers, it seems. And it just, I don't know what their plan is going forward post Mourinho, or if they have any plan.
I get the impression they do not have any plan. I'd be worried. If I were a Manchester United fan, I would be worried about the long-term future of that club in terms of what do you want out of it. Do you want
the current model that they're going through just doesn't seem sustainable at all?
No. Do you want Manchester United to become a club like Barcelona or Bayern Munich or, you know, Juventus at the moment? You know, a club that has a plan and has an agenda. If a manager leaves, we know what type of manager we want to bring in, and the fans are happy with that type of manager. We're going to play a certain brand of football. We're going to do it right. We're going to bring in the players that we want to bring in. We're going to maintain our level at the top of the game. Manchester United are going through some kind of weird... Like, they're doing everything wrong, it seems, at times. Like, they have Mourinho in, which is apparently... It seems like he was the man they wanted when... Or a lot of people wanted at the club when Ferguson left, and maybe that was the time to get Mourinho, to bring him in for that transition.
He wasn't available at the time, was the thing, but it did seem it was inevitable.
I think Mourinho would have made a better transition manager than the two that got appointed in his place in Van Gaal and Moyes.
Van Gaal did a fine job kind of cleaning up the mess that Moyes left. Moyes is obviously a complete mistake, complete disaster. I think Van Gaal kind of righted the ship in a way that his tenure at the club, like, it came to like a resolute ending.
Yeah.
But following it up with Mourinho, I don't think was the right idea.
But by the time Mourinho's done, presuming he lasts out his 3 years, say, will nearly be at a decade since Ferguson left. What is it?
It'll be 6 years.
6
then,
years, like half a decade since Ferguson left, and the club will probably, correct me if I'm wrong, because the average age of the player is quite elderly in that United, and it will be older by the time Mourinho's finished.
The average age isn't that high at the moment.
For players that are staying or going at the club, like
the starting 11 isn't that old. Like, you look at the spine of the team: Lukaku, Pogba, you've Rashford, the two defenders that play, like Bailly and Jones and De Gea, are all pretty young. Like, they're in their early to mid 20s.
Okay, well, my point, maybe not about their age, but perhaps about their flight risk. That, with the exception of, say, Lukaku and Rashford, and I think that's it really. Lukaku and Rashford. Lukaku because he costs so much money, and Rashford because he's a local boy and still very young. How many of that team do you see another manager picking up and continuing with? That, considering De Gea is probably going to leave one way or the other. Eventually, he's going to go to Real Madrid. The defenders we've discussed before, how they're kind of, Phil Jones isn't a consistent season-long performer. He doesn't stay fit long enough. Chris Smalling has his issues. Eric Bailly, who's to say where he'll be in a couple of seasons? Lindelof seems to be a disaster. You don't know about Luke Shaw lasting even Mourinho this season.
Yeah, I don't think
Valencia's getting on.
Yeah, Valencia is getting on.
Players like Darmian and Fosu-Mensah, they're being pushed to the periphery or being loaned out. The midfield in itself, with the exception of Pogba, who God knows how long he'll stay at the club. Mino Raiola seems to have an idea for his clients to move club every few seasons, so he could be gone again in a couple of seasons. Like, Man United are going to need to rebuild. They're going to need to get, which is a sad state of affairs when you think about it, because, this is what they said when Ferguson left. Oh, Manchester United need to rebuild. They need to rebuild. And Moyes, didn't really rebuild. And then Van Gaal didn't really rebuild. And now Mourinho...
Van Gaal, his idea of rebuilding was more... what youth players do United have, and let's hope they can do something.
Which is a noble effort, but it hasn't worked out in the long term because they brought in Mourinho, who just...
I'd love to kind of know, like, in an alternate universe, what Louis van Gaal's third season would have looked like who would have played in that starting 11.
I'd say a lot of more youth players, but I don't think it would have been enough to, make a dent in the league. But at the same time...
that's the thing in the end, really.
I don't think it would have made much of a difference to where they performed last season. I would imagine they would have finished in the top 4 under Van Gaal last season, but they probably wouldn't have won the cups.
Yeah, but in the end, like, obviously it kind of goes against what we said earlier, but I think in terms of Ed Woodward, the Champions League is more what's important to him.
It grows the global brand.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all he cares about at the end of the day, keeping the shareholders happy.
But what manager will do that post Mourinho?
That is the question. Like, as it was before Mourinho was hired, it seemed to be down to 2 choices, which was Ryan Giggs, because, I don't know, he was at the club for so long, and Jose Mourinho. And they were Ed Woodward's 2 choices. He didn't look beyond that. He didn't look for a sideways appointment, promoting someone from within the league who had done well, the way that, say Everton have done in the past, or the way that other similarly sized clubs
like Tottenham
did with Pochettino. They didn't want to take that risk. They haven't looked abroad the way that Barcelona often do and try and find a manager from obscurity the way that Bayern Munich sometimes do, or even promote from within the way Barcelona and Real Madrid have both done in terms of Guardiola and Zidane, who both won them Champions Leagues multiple times. Like, he didn't consider any of that. He just wanted the big name with the with the brand of their own that they could bring into the club and make work, because it would look good and no one would blame him then for anything that went wrong. It shows weak leadership. It shows a lack of direction in the footballing sense at the top of the club, which is really sorry, and it kind of shows how much control Alex Ferguson had at that club, that nobody in the higher echelons of management seems to know anything about football.
Yeah, like there have been little reports here and there that maybe Pochettino is who they would go for, but I don't think he'd go to United.
Yeah, well, like, bar him being given a massive war chest or something going terribly wrong at Spurs, why would he leave Spurs at this time? He says he wants to settle in and do a long-term game with Spurs, and Pochettino isn't someone who went after massive jobs at any, or even massive clubs in his career. Like, maybe he wasn't to the standard of other players of his generation, but he was an international World Cup cap winning player for Argentina. Like, that's not an easy place to be. And he stayed at smaller clubs. He stayed playing at Espanyol. He managed at Espanyol, at Paris Saint-Germain, when they weren't the club they are today. He doesn't necessarily chase glory the way that other managers do. He might be looking for a project. He certainly said that. Like, that's why he went to Southampton the first time. That's why he went to Spurs when he signed for them. Like, perhaps he is the real deal. He is someone who wants to play the long game and create a legacy the way that Alex Ferguson did, or the way Wenger does. Stay at a club long term.
Yeah, and like beyond that, I don't know who I would be looking at to bring in then.
It would have to be a name, but there is no names that are available. Like, Guardiola's not going there anytime soon.
No, certainly not.
Carlo probably won't go there anytime soon, maybe, but I can't see him taking over another, short-term job like that. There's, in Woodward's, reduced scope of the world, I don't think there's a huge amount of choice for him to make.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how that kind of falls. Obviously, Mourinho still has to get through this season and see if he does capitulate in his third season like he always does or not.
We'll have to wait and see.
But that will do us for our topic of the show. We're going to move into our Champions League preview now. Roma are hosting Chelsea, and they had a very exciting 3-3 draw at Stamford Bridge last time out 2 weeks ago. Will we see another 3-3 draw here?
I think Roma are good for this game. Like, my gut tells me that Roma are just going to collapse at home like they always do against big European sides, like they have done against Bayern in the past, or Man City or Manchester United. So Chelsea should roll them over comfortably. But Chelsea are not playing well, like, really at all. Not since the Atletico.
No, they were very poor at the weekend, I thought. Like, Roma have been very good. The only slip-up they've had this season is a defeat to Napoli, and obviously Napoli are blowing everyone away in Serie A. So, like, I if it wasn't for that kind of history of Roma collapsing, I could see Roma actually winning this match.
Yeah.
So you always have to have, like, just be a little bit skeptical when it comes to them in Europe.
Yeah. And the reality of the situation is, Conte apparently is in trouble at Stamford Bridge. He's not getting on with management there. And there is thoughts of, like, both sides are looking for an exit route for their respective parties, which means, Chelsea would be happy if Conte left and Conte would be happy if Chelsea sacked him. So this week, Chelsea have to play Manchester United at home and they have to play Roma away. And if they were to come out with 0 points from those two fixtures...
Yeah, that could be the end.
Yeah, that could be a perfect excuse for Conte to be sacked. But at the same time, as we just discussed at the top of the show, Manchester United aren't in a great shape. And Chelsea should take them on too, as well, especially at home.
Yeah.
So Chelsea could come out with 6 points easily from the
yeah, it's a big week for them, or a big 4 or 5 days for them.
It is, absolutely. It could decide, certainly if Conte goes, that'll decide the rest of the season, most likely.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely.
And we were just talking about Tottenham. They host Real Madrid 2 weeks after a valiant 1-1 draw at the Bernabeu.
Yeah, and as we discussed earlier in the show, Real Madrid are in a bit of a quandary at the moment. They're not performing. They do roughly have a full strength side out, and they're just not winning. They're not playing well. They're drawing matches they should be winning. They're struggling to win matches they should be comfortably ahead in. And as we said 2 weeks ago, they did draw with Tottenham. Spurs should have Harry Kane back. It's my understanding that Harry Kane was basically rested for that Manchester United match.
Yeah.
A bit of a gamble that didn't really pay off for them, but it could pay off if they perform against Real Madrid at home. I think everyone will forget that defeat if they beat Real Madrid.
Oh, definitely, yeah, and that would essentially give them top of the group well, yeah. You would think.
Like, both teams are through, basically, at this point. A draw would see both teams through, I think.
But like Chelsea with Antonio Conte and it being a big 4 or 5 days, we're in the middle of a big 4 or 5 days for Tottenham. And if, as you said, the gamble didn't pay off on Saturday, and if it doesn't pay off again on Wednesday evening, then things could... I don't think Pochettino's in as precarious a position as Antonio Conte is, but it could still reflect very poorly upon him if they lose 3 matches in a row.
Yeah, it would look bad on their season as a whole if they, or not on their season as a whole, but it could affect how the season goes because once this series of matches is over, we're going into another international break. And then we have the run-in for Christmas where we're having matches every single week, basically, or every midweek.
I think each Premier League team averages a game every 3.7 days or something up to the new year.
Yeah, which is going to be crazy for all involved, and for the type of hard-pressing, aggressive, attritional football that Spurs play, it's going to be the hardest of all for them.
It's going to be very testing for them.
Yeah. So it is, as you said, a very big few days for Spurs.
And also on Wednesday night, Napoli play Man City, and Napoli don't have Inter Milan on the coming weekend, so maybe they will play a full-strength squad this time.
Yeah, well, Napoli have to win this match to actually stay in the Champions League. Like, I know it doesn't appear to be their how do you say, their priority for the season.
Main focus. Yeah, like, I think like they rested both Alan and Jorginho in the match at the Etihad, but it seems like both of those players will play now. And when Alan did come on and against Man City, they were a lot more comfortable on the ball. They threatened Man City a lot more, and we could see, especially because it's at Napoli now, we could see a much more threatening Napoli side.
Yeah, it's a cauldron in Naples, that stadium.
Yeah,
like Man City will not have a good night no matter what. So, you know, I still think Man City probably have enough for Napoli because Napoli aren't prioritising this tournament, but I see a lot of goals coming up in this match.
Yeah, it could be a very fun watch. It is kind of the one to look out for this week in the Champions League, I think.
If you're to watch one match, it probably would be one. Although saying that, it'll probably be a 0-0 draw now.
Yeah, we've cursed it.
Yes, we have.
That's how it goes. But I just wanted to take a look at Group G, which features last year's semi-finalist Monaco in it. But Monaco are currently last in the group.
Yeah,
with just a solitary point.
Like, Monaco have been doing that badly in Ligue 1 so far. They're in second place, but when it comes to Europe, they're getting absolutely whipped around the place. Like, Porto beat them at home 3-0. Is it 3-0?
3-0 or 3-1, I think.
Yeah, it was crazy, like, how the tables have turned. They have lost very important players. They have basically lost half their team. But still, they're getting absolutely torn apart by teams that aren't considered the top range teams in Europe, you know?
No, like RB Leipzig are in their first real European run, or their first
European run.
It is their first ever. Yeah. Porto, not quite the side they were 10 years ago, and Besiktas. I don't know what's really gotten into them. They obviously spent money over the summer as well.
Yeah, they've got a lot of support.
3 wins from 3.
Yeah, they're just doing fantastically well. Like, Pepe's marshalling the defence. They had good, like, I remember when Bilic was still in charge of Besiktas, they were doing quite well, but now they've got that killer edge, that top class.
Yeah, they seem to have just found another level.
Yeah, and they are going to go through to the knockout stages.
Yeah, and it looks like they could even they're going to top that group. It seems they already have a 5-point lead.
Yeah, so it seems 1 point will seal it for them.
Yeah, like it's just I remember when the draw was made, like thinking it's a very balanced looking group, but I didn't think I thought Monaco would top the group and it'd be between Porto and Leipzig, but it's just the complete opposite of that now.
It's going to be complete. I think it will come down to Leipzig or Porto, because I don't think Monaco have the stomach or the real stomach probably isn't the term, but they don't have the strength and depth
drive.
Yeah, the drive to keep going, because basically this season Falcao isn't scoring you a goal. They're not scoring any goals. They're not having the contribution from the Mbappes, from the Mendy's, from the whoever else was in the side last season that was scoring goals. Everyone basically.
Bernardo Silva's not there.
Exactly. So they don't have an extra creative drive or an extra, no one's picking out the pass. So Falcao's doing a lot of this on his own. And if he's not scoring, which he hasn't been in the Champions League so far, Monaco aren't getting out of that group. And I think Leipzig and Porto will be the important game.
Yeah, that's just a group to keep an eye out for, I think, for the remaining of the 3 fixtures, because some of the other groups are kind of done to this point, I think. Like, you can kind of tell who's going to go through at this point, and we'll be seeing teams qualifying this week now. Like, most of the English clubs I think will be able to qualify this week, except for maybe Liverpool.
Yeah, it's to be expected that all the big sides that you expected to get through, the top ranking teams, Bayern Munich, Man City, Real Madrid, Tottenham, Chelsea, maybe Barcelona, Juve, probably maybe PSG. They're all going to.
We'll see all those teams qualify now.
Yeah,
this week
they'll be thereabouts at the end of this match day.
Yeah, but just coming up this weekend as well. There's 4 matches on Sunday, but there are 2 huge ones now. Manchester City are playing Arsenal.
Yeah, I think they're playing on Monday evening, which is even
No, it's Sunday.
Is it Sunday?
As far as I know. Yeah.
So away from the Champions League teams, Arsenal are at the top of that bunch at the moment, and they're starting to perform. They're doing their classic Arsenal thing of winning matches when they don't matter, putting together a nice run, and then they have to face a good team, and we'll see whether they can win it or draw it or lose it, for that matter.
It's a 2:15 kickoff on Sunday. It's on in the Etihad. Last year it seemed like they could win at the Etihad, and then they completely collapsed, and that was kind of the nadir for Wenger at that point last season. Maybe a defeat wouldn't be so disastrous this weekend.
It's expected, I would say, for the most part. I think I'd say a lot of those Arsenal players are going to expect to have a tough Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting test though for Man City, because they have not played many top teams. Like, they completely dominated Chelsea, and they got kind of fortunate against Liverpool because of the red card.
Yeah, but, presuming that there are no crazy events in this match, it will be a test to them, and it's a test before they have to go on and play the Manchester United, and they have their Christmas run as well.
Yeah, because Arsenal have actually done quite well. They have given Man City their toughest tests over the last few years. Yeah,
including defeating them.
And Wenger as well has done quite well against Pep.
Yeah, he's beaten Pep in the past in European fixtures and stuff like that, so he does have a bit of previous with him. So it's yet to be seen. I'd still say City will win.
City I think are the favourites.
The 2 weekend matches, Chelsea versus Manchester United being the other big match, the Super Sunday match. I would say Chelsea and City, the 2 home victories, I would say would be my bet of the week.
Yeah, I think that's probably the safest option. I think the Chelsea Man United match I could see that just being a draw at this point.
Yeah, but, Mourinho would love that. I think Mourinho will be playing for a draw from the outset.
He'd definitely love that. Yeah. But that's an exciting Sunday ahead as well, I think.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't let us all down. Mourinho is wont to do, I think, at this point.
Well, we can only hope for the best.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully the next it's a good week of fixtures coming up now between Champions League and this Sunday. Yeah, it's a nice little injection of pace into the season to try and make us rethink, because this past weekend hasn't been the most exciting weekend. So we're looking for more excitement across Europe. Yeah, right before that final international break of this part of the season. Exactly. But that will do us, I think, for this week's episode. I just want to say thank you to listening, and please do get in touch. You can email us at thetfpod@gmail.com, and please follow us on social media at thetfpod. You can follow us individually on Twitter. I'm at CheesyHarpun, and Andrew, you are at ComOn27. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review on whatever platform you use to listen to this on. That just leaves me to say, Andrew, say goodbye. Goodbye. And goodbye from me.